Scott Talley here, coming to you from the worldwide headquarters of Network in Action, our new headquarters in Houston, Texas. And we are really lucky today. I'm so excited about this little interview and little conversation with Dave Mann, the founder of Impact Sales Solutions. That makes you the president, CEO, chief bottle washer,
coffee maker,
you name it. Anyway, welcome, Dave. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Scott. Glad to be here.
I want to jump in because, we talked to a lot of different businesses. We might have mortgage companies in here, title companies, or business coaches. But what you're doing is so unique. And in my opinion, as an old sales guy, a guy that has eaten what he's killed for pretty much all of his adult life, you really have a unique offering to the market. So talk a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I provide outsourced sales management solutions. The industry term is fractured sales management. And basically what that means is it's an outsourced outsider that becomes an insider. And my experience in corporate America was in multiple sales management positions, primarily in technology, telecommunications, healthcare, financial services, and those industries. But what I found is that I had such a passion for helping salespeople grow and helping salespeople to be successful. And I realized that one of my unique skills and talents was that I could help make salespeople more successful, and that's where I got my most joy out of helping somebody, and my most satisfaction in helping somebody else be successful. I think it's a unique trait, and all good sales managers have that trait, because you have to be able to live your success through someone else.
That's right. If you think about what Dave's doing, you've heard of outsourcing your book work, or you heard of outsourcing your CFO work, or you may not need a permanent CFO. We outsource HR, we outsource everything, but you're one of the only people I know that's really getting heavily involved in an organization's sales force.
Yes.
And I cannot think of anything that's more important. I mean, if you don't have the sales, you don't need the accountant or the bookkeeper or the tax person, right?
That's correct.
Everything evolves around that.
And the target is small and medium-sized businesses, and the reality is that most small and medium-sized businesses are run by the founder or a CEO, maybe a director-level type person, but that they typically don't have the background and the experience to be a sales manager. They're very competent in the offering of the company, but they don't know how to lead and manage a sales team, how to hold them accountable, how to make sure that they're being productive and doing the things that they need to be doing. And a lot of them don't even want to do it, and it's just another responsibility that they have. So I found through my experience in corporate America and having two of my own businesses for a period of 10 years, building and rebuilding is where my skill set really lied. So what I figured out was that I could offer this as a service myself. And so I experimented with it in a project that lasted about a year. And I tested what I'm doing in a project for a company, and then decided that this could work and it could be an offering on its own, and I would offer it as that.
Yeah, it's as a guy who made his living for 10 or 12 years managing a sales force, it's like herding cats, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So when you call, let's say a business finds out about you and they seek you out. So maybe it's a guy who's really great at repairing air conditioners. He started an air conditioning company. He grows to 8 or 12, 20 trucks, and he's got some salespeople out on the force. So where do you start with him or her?
Well, what I would typically do is start with an analysis of what they're currently doing. How are they doing things now? I have a proprietary software package where I can go out and interview somebody for about a 2-hour period, ask about 60 questions, have an in-depth conversation about their business, and actually get them thinking about a lot of things that they might not have ordinarily thought about. And then I take this and I input it into a software, and I come back with an analysis and I present that to them. It's actually a very comprehensive document.
So each one of those salespeople might take that, or their top salespeople?
That's geared. That's a good question. That's geared toward the business, but there are more detailed, oriented analyses that we can do for salespeople as far as their aptitude and their personality.
So, like most companies, they've decided to hire a salesperson, and then A becomes multiple salespeople, and there's not much in the way of processes, right? Is that what you typically find?
There's not typically a process in place, and that in itself is the biggest number one difference between an A sales player and a B sales player. An A sales player follows a system, and a system that's been built. Every single sale is the same because they follow that process. We hear a lot of salespeople say, well, every deal is different. Every deal is not different if you're following a process that's been orchestrated on the success factors of how you need to get the business, how you need to win the contract.
So part of your initial offering is to go in and do some of that discovery and figure out what that process is. I imagine most of your clients don't have a process.
They don't, and that's a really important point, is that I come in and build a selling system for them and then teach them how to actually use the system. And the big part of this is increasing sales performance, but also increasing the owner's ability to hold the sales reps accountable for their productivity and know what they're doing and where they are. I've talked to some companies that the owners they don't know what their sales reps are doing or where they are, and that's a real challenge because you don't know the value that you're getting out of them, and it's hard to gauge the results if you don't know what the process is that they're using. And there's also a technology piece to this that I can help them use technology to actually be a support tool for this whole selling system.
So make no mistake, we're not talking about putting a little piece of tracking software in the salesperson's car and knowing where they are every minute.
That's
it's
correct.
A lot bigger than this.
It's a lot bigger than that. It generates voluntary compliance without having to go to the means that you're talking about.
So take a minute and tell us about, one of your favorite stories about one of your customers that contracted with you. They probably thought they were about to spend a bunch of money, and turns out they made a bunch of money, I'm sure, on your efforts.
Yeah, exactly. Because just what we're talking about, it's not uncommon for these situations to arise for business owners and not really know what their sales reps are doing. So in an example, I identified the markets that we could be successful in and what the reps needed to do in those markets and how they needed to approach, built the selling system around that, utilizing technology as well as the weekly monitoring of their activity, and the sales increased quite a bit.
So I get the assessment that takes place when you got a new customer. You go in there and you figure out what's going on. Once you nail down, you actually help them build a process, correct?
Correct.
And so that process has been built. Do you show up at a sales meeting and then let the people know what the new sheriff in town has in order for them, or how's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can actually conduct the weekly sales meetings if the owner would like me to. Ideally, both of us or whoever the owners are would participate in those meetings and then go through the handoff process, and then I would take them over from there. But that's typically what I do, is run the sales meetings as well, because that's really when you get the group together, then you have an opportunity for the peer-to-peer interaction, which really helps, especially when you're monitoring performance and accountability. But the meetings aren't just about that. They always need to be about something else, sharing a story, somebody sharing one of their deals that they're working on, a problem they may be having, getting input from others, maybe a good training tidbit or some technology tidbits or something like that. So there's always it needs to be a mixture of things, and the sales meetings need to be felt like they're really voluntary and that everyone's getting enough out of it that they want to come and not just another weekly obligation.
Yeah, and usually those type meetings were, like we talked about before, are led by people who don't know a whole lot about sales, and they cost a lot of money, don't they?
Yeah, they can.
I realize I did. So, like in terms of during the course of the week or the month, do the salespeople also reach out to you for questions or problems?
Yes, they do. That's another good question. They'll call me from time to time, and there's no obligation on that. I'll be happy to help them out when they call. And also, one of the things that I really enjoy doing a lot is spending windshield time with them and going out and making calls with them. The field coaching aspect of this is a very important part of what a sales manager does.
Wow, you're really turning in it. Yeah, I've noticed that in my lifetime as a sales manager, going out on calls, I can learn so fast what someone might be doing wrong, and it's usually something little, isn't it? I mean, there may be a pattern of 2 or 3 little things that you'll see that are like, well, that's not the way we trained it. That's not part of the process. But
right, and there's a reason for that, and that's because a lot of sales reps really get wrapped up in their message and what they're trying to accomplish, and so they actually lose track of some of the things that they're saying or some of the things that they're doing. And another area that I help them with is monitoring how the customer is actually perceiving them. You can tell whether the customer is getting, the prospect's getting it, or whether they're engaged with the person, whether they even like them or not, or maybe even whether they want to do business with them or not. Yeah. So having another set of eyes and ears in the room is a very beneficial thing. And then what I typically do is get back in the car with them and then debrief very quickly so that it has more of an impact on them in terms of what I observed, and then coach them and say, let's go do another one and let's try this or try something else. And that's a real key in terms of improving sales reps' productivity.
As a profession, I come across people who are like, salespeople, they scoff at it and they look down on all that. But how would you say the sales profession has changed over the last 20 years or so?
Well, sales reps have had to do a lot of growing and developing and get a lot more strategic than before, because the buyers are a different environment now. Most companies buy by committee now. You don't typically walk in and talk to somebody and get a decision made and let's do the deal and we're going to go, because there's a lot more threat of risk, and there is that risk management factor that companies deal with, and they want more than one person making the decision, and many times that goes to the board or certainly to a group of executives with the company. So that makes the sales process more difficult, and it makes it longer. Can make it more fun too, because you get to work with a lot of different people. But that is one of the biggest elements. That and technology are two of the biggest elements that have changed sales rep, the sales rep skill set and the process over the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah. What are some of the mistakes you see salespeople making, prior to you getting involved? And I'm talking about on the field level when they're out there in front of a customer.
Yeah, they think a deal's a real deal that's not a real deal. That's a big thing to coach around, and a lot of that is because the traditional questions are what's in your backlog, and they have things in their backlog that really aren't real deals.
Right.
So that's why you have to address it from the standpoint of next step and pending events. What's on the calendar, what does that person have on their calendar? And those are sort of the qualifying questions that I will use in my coaching with the sales reps, so that they're actually focusing on a deal where they're going to have a next step, something on the calendar, something is going to happen within a reasonable period of time that's going to cause this to move forward. Because a lot of sales reps will hear, just give me a call in 2 weeks, or just give me a call in a month, or call me and we'll set up an appointment. And the concept of calling to set up an appointment, an appointment to set up an appointment is not an appointment.
Yeah, you can ensure that. But the kind of mistakes people make out in the field, like in front of the client, what do you see there?
Some of them say too much. They don't answer the question. They talk too much. They don't really address what the prospect wants them to address. They don't look at it from a standpoint of educating and teaching the prospect something. That's one way to really differentiate yourself as a sales rep, is don't come in and just teach the customer something about their business or about their industry that they don't know. Now you got some credibility, and you differentiate you from everybody else that's in there fighting over price and features and benefits and all that stuff that we never care about.
Yeah. So are salespeople born, or can they be trained?
Most of them are born that way because it's a personality type, right. But a lot of them can be trained, yes. And I've actually seen some that I had some doubts myself whether they were going to be able to do it, and they turned out to be very successful. But a lot of that goes back to having a mentor, a coach to help them and get them through the process and teach them the right way to do it and what needs to be done in order to be successful. So I've been fooled a few times, and I've learned a few things about people, and then you certainly have your superstars, and those are real fun to work with too. And that's just a whole different animal, but it's still a lot of fun to work with somebody like that, because you have to, in what I do, you have to help the owner identify where everybody is that's on the sales team. Are they in the lower third, the middle third, the upper third, and then the strategy in each one of those thirds is completely different with what you need to do with a sales rep.
Yeah. Are there any industries really that you can't work with? I mean, you think about it.
There are no industries that I can't work with. The needs of the services that I fulfill can be in any industry. It can be a service industry. It can be a widget. It can be selling any type of a product or a service. I haven't seen any industry where there's really not an application for it.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of industry experience in a lot of different industries, and that does help. But it's not completely required, because it's more about what they're doing with the sales team than what they're selling.
Yeah, incredible value you offer. You're the only guy I know doing this, and I know a lot of people think about outsourcing lots of different things. If you're a business owner and you're staying awake at night thinking about what am I doing with my sales, I don't know where people are, I don't know what their close ratio is, I don't even know if they're seeing enough people, you're totally lost.
Correct.
Then I'd reach out to Dave Mann with Impact Sales Solutions. Dave, before we leave, tell the audience how they reach you by phone and email.
My email is dave.mann@salesqb.com, salesqb as in quarterback, and my phone number is 281-543-6367.
And you've obviously built your company, a lot of networking, a lot of word of mouth. I'm sure your customers are referring their friends to you. Talk to me a little bit about your networking background.
Yeah, the networking piece has become even a more important part of my marketing strategy than what I had anticipated. And I've learned a lot from the networking process. I've done a little bit of networking before, but not a tremendous amount of networking. And so it's been new to me to actually get out there and go through the process. But it's been very beneficial. I've learned a lot about networking. I've learned a lot about other businesses and getting to know people. And I've also learned that you need to give to get, and the more you give, the more you get, and that's really what networking is about, and developing a lot of good relationships with good people and good business people. So I've really enjoyed that, and I hadn't done a lot of it before, so it's been a learning process for me. But
well, you're quite good at it. I know you've reached out to a lot of people, and you care about people, and that's what matters. I tell people all the time. People call me and say, hey, I haven't got a referral sent to me, and I said, well, how many people in the group are going to bed thinking about helping you tonight? Yeah. Because the more people that feel obligated to help you, the better chances are you're going to get business back in the long run. So,
that's correct.
Really glad you came in today. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
For your time.
Thank you.
Great talking.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Scott. Great to visit with you.